You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
It's just a question of what makes sense that belongs in the Constitution and not in a statute somewhere.
So
Constitution is a pretty fine document, and we don't need to muddle it.
We are less than a month away from voting on constitutional amendments. Do you know what you're voting for? Good evening, everyone. I'm Alan Cohen, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. We'll have more on the proposed constitutional amendments in a moment. But first, our top stories at 7. It has been nearly a week since Hurricane Michael hit the Florida Panhandle, and the Suncoast is banding together in a big way to help victims. Organizations are collecting donations to bring to the Florida Panhandle. The Manatee County Sheriff's Office is collecting household goods every day until Sunday at 3 locations, including their main office on 301 in Bradenton. This morning, iHeartMedia was at the intersection of Stickney Point and US 41, collecting money donations from passing cars. They'll be there and in Venice on Cortez and 41 again tomorrow from 6 a.m. until noon.
This could happen in our community any day. It's important too because we just care about people in general. And if you watch the stories on the news, and we know people that have family and friends there, anything that you can do to help other people is what matters most to us.
The Venice Fire Department and Holmes Beach Police are also collecting goods to be taken north, but we've put a full list of collection sites and what they're accepting on our website. Just visit mysuncoast.com. Tyndall Air Force Base, southeast of Panama City, won't be abandoned after a sustained direct hit from Hurricane Michael, says Senator Bill Nelson. Base Command at Tyndall says the hit from Michael caused widespread catastrophic damage, including hangars where planes have been sheltered that could not be flown out because of maintenance or safety reasons. Nelson seeking to dismiss growing concerns the storm battered the base, and it will follow the path that has been with Homestead Air Force Base after it was destroyed by Hurricane Andrew in 1992.
It is critically located right next to one of our greatest national assets, the Air Force Eastern Gulf Test and Training Range, which is the largest training and testing range for the United States military in the world.
Tyndall is home to the 325th Fighter Wing, which trains pilots for F-22 Raptors. Of the 55 stealth fighters housed at Tyndall, at least 33 were relocated ahead of the Category 4 storm landfall with 155-mile-per-hour sustained winds last Wednesday. Authorities are investigating a suspicious death in Collier County with links to Sarasota County. Detectives have identified human remains found on Friday as 55-year-old Sergio Hostins, a Sarasota resident who was reported missing October 8th. Detectives are looking for 31-year-old Daniel Davenport, who they believe is responsible for Hostin's murder. Police believe Davenport may be in the Tampa Bay area, driving Hostin's green Subaru Forester. If you see him, call 911 immediately. Florida's next governor, not Governor Rick Scott, will get to pick 3 new justices to the state Supreme Court. In a major rebuke to Scott, the Supreme Court ruling the Republican governor exceeded his authority when he started the process to find replacements for the 3 justices. Age limits are forcing 3 justices to retire on the day Scott is scheduled to leave the governor's office. In a 1-page ruling, the court said whoever is elected in November has the sole authority to name the new justices. And a reminder, ABC7 will be hosting the most watched debate of the season. The race for the Congress in the 16th Congressional District is one of the highest profile races in the country. Both candidates, Republican Vern Buchanan and Democrat David Shapiro, will face off in their one and only debate Tuesday, October 23rd at the Trapezoid, only on ABC7 at 7. If you want to submit your own question, you could send the idea to Alan Cohn at Alan M. Cohn on Twitter. Now let's head over to ABC7's chief meteorologist Bob Harrigan with the First Alert forecast. Bob.
Well, Alan and everyone, I'll tell you what, looking pretty good on the beaches over the weekend. Things were nice today too. You can see a lot of folks out there. Then some folks in their beach chairs getting ready for the nice sunset, which is just about to occur. We are looking at warm temperatures today. We had record-breaking or record-tying highs in Tampa and in Fort Myers. Feels like 93 out there right now with a wind out of the northwest at 5. The dew point way up there, the humidity at 76%. There are a few showers down to our south right now, mainly through the Fort Myers area. Sanibel getting a little bit of rainfall. There's a slight chance that some of this could make their way into our coast later on this evening. A rain chance less than 20%, however. Temperatures still very warm across the area, especially inland areas, still into the mid 80s there in places like Mayaca City. 86 in Arcadia, the Gulf water temperature at 84. And as far as the heat index goes, feels like 90 in downtown Sarasota, 92 in Arcadia. The Gulf water temperature still a warm 84. Well, here are the headlines as they read: near record highs through Wednesday and possibly even through Thursday. But there is a weak frontal system coming down. It looks like it'll bring us some more clouds on Thursday. So probably not going to get to record highs, but still near 90. Backdoor cold front arrives late Wednesday and Thursday, bringing with it a little bit better chance to see some showers and a few thunderstorms in the afternoon. Cold front really isn't going to actually bring us cooler weather. It will cool us down just a little bit. It's going to fade away just to our south. And yes, we're monitoring another tropical disturbance down to our south in the western Caribbean Sea. We'll have more on that coming up in a few minutes. Be sure to download our First Alert weather app. It's free. It's at your app store. Just go to it and do a search for WWSB First Alert Weather and download that, and you can track the storms. And it's promising to be a pretty active winter month too, winter months with some severe weather potential a little higher than usual. Alan?
Thanks, Bob. A lot of folks are still wrestling on who to vote for on Election Day, but it's the ballot questions that could have a profound impact on so many different things, ranging from questions on whether or not to change the state's constitution, like giving felons who have done their time the right to vote, giving the victims of crimes more rights, making it harder for the state legislature to raise taxes, and banning greyhound racing, and a lot more. And joining us for more are former Republican State Senator Lisa Carlton, a member of the Constitution Revision Commission, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. Our conversation is just going to be warming up, but we'll be back to start it after a quick break. Stay with us.
Outdoor living is one of the greatest perks about living in Florida. So whether this is your style, or this, or maybe this, contact Superior Pools. They've been building pools from Sarasota to Naples since 2001, and they would love to build yours.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to mesobook.com.
Sarasota Oxygen and CPAP is the largest locally owned CPAP supply company in the area. Is it time to replace your old equipment? The staff at Sarasota Oxygen and CPAP can show you the most up-to-date CPAP equipment and supplies to meet your sleep apnea needs, including portable travel devices and the SoClean automatic CPAP sanitizer. We serve all of Southwest Florida, giving the highest quality of care with the finest CPAP equipment. Please visit our website, sarasotacpap.com.
So I kind of grew up all across the country. I come from 5 generations of military men. My dad is still active duty. My grandpa is retired Marines. I like going for runs with my dog. I love, taking her out to the dog beach over in Venice. There are so many things here to do on the Suncoast. My goal every day when I come into work at ABC7 is to tell your stories, give you that major local news and those details that you really care about. I'm Jacqueline Matter, and I'm here for you.
Here's today's Job of the Day. ABC7 is seeking a reporter/anchor with at least 3 years reporting and anchoring experience. Producing background a plus. Visit mysuncoast.com/job-of-the-day to apply. Check out My Suncoast Dining on mysuncoast.com for Chef Judy's favorite recipes, restaurant guide, and more. Go to mysuncoast.com/dining.
Outdoor living is one of the greatest perks about living in Florida. So whether this is your style, or this, or maybe this, Contact Superior Pools. They've been building pools from Sarasota to Naples since 2001, and they would love to build yours.
Welcome back. We are talking about the ballot questions, and joining us for more are former Republican State Senator Lisa Carlton, the member of the Constitution Revision Commission, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. And let me first say that we enjoyed watching you a couple of weeks ago at the Tiger Bay Club, which really you did a fantastic job in terms of explaining these amendments to everyone who was there, because they, in many ways, in addition to who you vote for, as I just said, this has such a profound impact on our lives here in Florida. So let's start with the two of them that touch on public safety one way or the other, and that's Amendment 4 and 6. Taking Amendment 4 first, and that is, Lisa, has been something that's been kicked around for years here in Florida, whether or not to restore the voting rights of convicted felons. It has a lot of bipartisan support, and when we've done shows just on that, we've had a difficulty finding anybody opposed to it, but you do have your reservations.
Well, I think there is another side to Amendment 4. Amendment 4 was put on the ballot by a citizens' initiative, and it automatically restores the rights of convicted felons in the state who have done their time and their restitution, paid their restitution. It automatically restores their rights to vote, except in the case of murder or sexual offenses. And I do think the other side of that is there are a number of other felonies that are out in the world today that are very serious felonies. Kidnapping, arson, carjacking. There are certain felonies out there, and it causes one to pause and say, maybe those rights should not be automatically restored. And so I think that it's important for the voter, when they're looking at this amendment, to methodically review both sides of it.
Frank?
I don't disagree with the fact that there might be some carjacking, some violent crimes where the rights are automatically restored at the end of prison sentence plus parole plus probation. I'm not sure what the societal interest is other than punitive or political in withholding these rights after all of that has been completed. So just with respect to not being eligible to vote because of a felony offense, it's 2.5% of the voting age population nationwide, but it's 10.65% in Florida. And if you're a black Floridian, it is a voting age, it's 23%. That's shameful. We're an outlier here in the state of Florida, and we have to change this.
The one thing that I would think that both sides would agree on is our current system just isn't working. It's up to the governor and members of the cabinet, 3 people, to decide whether every convicted felon gets their voting rights back. And Lisa, in some cases, that wait is after a sentence is completed, 5, 10 years, if ever. That obviously what we have now has not worked.
You're right. I mean, I think we would all be in agreement that the process that is in place now is not a very fair process, and it also changes with administrations, which is inconsistent, which is frustrating to people who are trying to get their rights back. I think that it's important to point out that we're now automatically restoring the right to vote in the Constitution. It's a very, very serious provision that would go in the Constitution.
Frank, we only have a few seconds left here. On the flip side of it, the criticism is that this is going to help Democrats a little bit, assuming that a lot of the people who are coming out of the prisons might be Democratic voters.
Yes, but it's just going to correcting an anomaly, which is in the state of Florida. If you happen to be a minority or having a felony conviction, you have lost rights that in 46 other states you have not lost. And so there are some political implications, but it's not as if we're doing something, this amendment is asking to doing something different. It's just bringing us back to where the rest of the states in the union are.
We have to take a quick break. Our conversation on the proposed constitutional amendments continues right after we get a check on the First Alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Good evening, everyone. We are looking at pretty nice weather today, albeit hot. High temperatures were in the low 90s, even some mid-90s north and south of us. Just a few fair weather cumulus clouds rolling on through. You start to see a little darkening of the clouds, and there's a chance for a spotty shower or two. The sun has set, and things are looking pretty clear east of Lakewood Ranch now, and we have a frontal boundary, a cold front to the north of us. High pressure is situated off the Carolina coast. We'll keep that front from entering into our weather picture over on Tuesday or Wednesday for that matter. It will eventually break this high down and move through or get close to us on Thursday. This frontal boundary is a cold front now, but is expected to be come stationary on Tuesday over Georgia and throughout the Carolinas. For us, I mentioned a few showers around, 1 or 2. That's about it as a result of the fact the atmosphere is really dry right now, and it looks like it'll moisten up a little bit on Wednesday. Our rain chances will start to pop back up to 40% on Wednesday and stay that way through Friday. You can see 1 or 2 lone showers possible now throughout mainly South Sarasota and into looks like Charlotte County for the next couple of hours, and that may work its way northward. So don't be too surprised by 1 or 2 isolated showers, but it shouldn't be all that heavy at this time. It looks like things will moisten up a little bit, not so much on Tuesday, but on Wednesday as that wind switches to more of a southeasterly direction as that high pressure ridge gets bounced to the southeast and our winds switch around a little bit. So the evening planner looks good. We'll see partly cloudy skies, temperatures on the warm side at 80 degrees, and those winds now out of the west, so that sea breeze has penetrated inland, but it's not very strong. It's only around 5 to 10 miles an hour. Still out of the east in DeWitt, Mayaca City, as well as into Old Mayaca, and in Northport as well, out of the northeast, east to northeast, but out of the west northwest at Inglewood, Minnesota Beach, and Venice. I mentioned the dry air. It's in place right now. It will start to moisten up a little bit on Wednesday, but Tuesday should be another sunny and hot day. Temperatures expected to be well above seasonal averages. Our average high right around 86 degrees. Well, hurricane season is not over. It doesn't end officially until November 30th. And we're watching another area of disturbed weather. The news on it, though, with that high pressure moving down from the Carolinas, it's going to keep this on a more westerly course and cause all sorts of problems with some heavy rainfall into Central America near Nicaragua and as well as Honduras. Mudslides, a big problem there, as well as flooding concerns with flash floods. It's going to continue on a westerly course. There's a chance it could get back in the Pacific and redevelop or develop into a tropical system, or it could get in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. Reconnaissance aircraft is going to investigate this area tomorrow. It looks like, if it looks impressive as it has today, 40% chance of it developing. Even if it were to develop, it would stay well to our south and to our west. Here's some of the forecast runs showing a lot of it going into the Pacific and then moving off to the west, while others take it into the southwest Gulf of Mexico and possibly on toward Mexico, bringing with it some very heavy rainfall. Well, we remember Leslie was out there just kind of spinning around forever, it seemed. Well, it moved into France and caused a lot of problems with flooding there. They had some heavy rainfall over the weekend, and Michael, the remnants thereof, passed off to the north and east of it, basically. 84 right now. Winds are out of the north-northwest at 5, and the high today, another hot one, 91 degrees. Sure felt like summer out there. 74 was the morning low. Much cooler air behind this front, too. We've got to look at some of these temperatures. Right now in Dallas, it's 44. Kansas City, the same. And Minneapolis as well. 2 degrees warmer in Chicago now at 46 degrees. That cool air staying up to our north for right now. Winds out of the east, switching around to the northwest in the afternoon. Seas 1 to 2 feet. The extended forecast calling for mostly fair skies tomorrow. Another hot one, staying warm on into Wednesday, even Thursday and Friday above average. Could get a little cooler on the weekend. The rain chances picking up a little bit, as I mentioned, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Al will be back with his guests right after this. Stick around.
Blue 32, Blue 32, hot, hot. It's the Gatto Gridiron Challenge. The game's on to sell 2,000 vehicles. 12 teams compete for the #1 spot. Score a great deal at every Gatto dealership. Buy with 0 down. Make no payments for 90 days. Choose from 14 of your favorite brands, all on sale. Who will make it to the end zone? You decide. Rush to a Gatto location near you or visit Gatto.com.
Gatto's got it.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
When the call comes in, it's time to go to work. We'll respond first, but FBL is right there with us.
You really never know what you're going to pull up on. You don't know what type of call you're going to have. You don't know, once you get to that call, what you're going to encounter.
Whether it's a big storm, it could be a house fire, you must be ready at all times.
We're always happy to see FPL. It's pretty much a team effort. Everybody has a job to do.
We know we can count on them. They'll be there, and so will we.
Dear parents, it's time for a pop quiz. What's the best kind of play for kids? Play that makes us think? Or helps us pretend? Or teaches us rules? Or to be creative? Actually, every kind of play is important because different kinds of play give us different kinds of skills. Help us mix up the ways we play. Okay, class dismissed. Now go play.
Be a Heart Walk hero. I'm Scott Dennis. Join ABC7 and the American Heart Association for the 2018 Suncoast Heart Walk. It's Saturday, November 10th at J.D. Hamill Park. Walk with us to help raise funds to fight heart disease and stroke. Your support will help us advance life-saving breakthroughs that will keep more hearts beating. We can't save lives without your help. Register for free and walk with us to have fun and help hearts. For more information, visit suncoastheartwalk.org.
Welcome back. We are talking about the ballot questions, and joining us for more are former Republican State Senator Lisa Carlton, a member of the Constitution Revision Commission, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. And we should just tell people, explain the Constitution Revision Commission. That's where a lot of these questions comes. We do this once every 20 years in Florida. Lisa, you were honored to be named a member of this. I would imagine that was an incredible, long and complicated process.
It was. It was in total about an 18-month process. And again, the Constitution Revision Commission, as you said, is every 20 years, but it's not only unique, you know, in the United States, it's a unique concept in Florida itself. So the CRC is something that you don't see in other states, so a lot of people don't understand what it is. But it was intended to have a thorough review of our Constitution every 20 years. And
I want to talk about the questions more, but let's just explore this a little bit, because it's dominated by Republicans, because Republicans control the legislature and the governor's office. Frank, does that really impact in terms of what kind of questions actually get to the ballot?
It does. There's prohibitions through Sunshine Law of gaming it out, but with the governor appointing 15 of the 37, Speaker of the House 9, Senate President, they're appointing people that I think they hope that certain things that are important to the appointers will be moved forward. And so the composition of the commission has certain agendas, I think, in mind that affect what ultimately comes out. But a lot of things come through the process as well, and that's why I think you can't just assume like a no across the board on everything if you're on the politically on this. So you have to take a close look at what they're doing and make judgments on each amendment independently.
All right, so let's talk about Amendment 6 for a moment. And you read this, and it, who wouldn't be in favor of this? Basically, vastly expands the scope of victims' right under the state constitution. It's so often talked about, Frank, that victims in our court system have fewer rights than the accused here. This goes to balancing that out a little bit. But so why are some people critical of it?
There are some folks that are critical of the Marsy's Law in and of itself because they think that it impinges upon the rights of the accused and defendants. I'm going to just park that, though. My bigger concern with this amendment has to do with what was tacked on in the other parts. And there's 3 parts to this amendment. The last part is actually a prohibition on the part of judges of using something known as a Chevron doctrine or Chevron deference in their decisions in terms of anything that involves an administrative agency.
Explain that.
It comes out of a 1984 Supreme Court case, Chevron versus the National Resources Defense Council. It's a precedent. It's not a mandate. It's not something that judges have to use, but it's there. It's a justification for jurisprudence decisions, and what it says is that when there is legislation that is unclear on an issue and an administrative agency makes an interpretation of a statute or a law that the court or the judges find reasonable, that they should defer to that. It's something that had broad support for a long period of time, including Antonin Scalia thought this was a really good idea. It's contested. Gorsuch doesn't like it too much. It's whether or not the Supreme Court overturns it in the coming years remains to be seen. But for a state to put something in the Constitution that bans a precedent in the Supreme Court, for me, it's a major thing, and they tack this into the back of the Marsy's Law.
I think when you look at Amendment 7, it's a complete package. It's a public safety package. It's a choices on our judiciary. The victims' rights portion of the amendment is a very strong provision for victims' rights to have equal rights in our court system, right in our Constitution, just as the criminal defendants do. And the issue that Frank is talking about, basically right now when you go into court, litigants, normally you would think you would walk into court, except in criminal instances where there's a burden of proof, you would walk into court on equal footing, plaintiffs and defendants, so that judges can have, they have an unbiased view of the case, they look at the case, they decide which is right and which is wrong. And this puts that back in place where it should be.
We have to take a quick break. We are just getting warmed up. Our conversation on the proposed constitutional amendments will continue after this break.
Did you know you could get life insurance for less than 32 cents a day? With Guaranteed Acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage, you can get up to $25,000 in protection with a single phone call. TrueStage can help free your family from immediate financial stress when you're gone.
Utility bills, mortgages, car payments, those are a lot of things that can add up pretty fast.
And even if you're on a fixed income, prices fit your budget, starting at less than 32 cents a day. Plus, your price will never increase and your benefit will never decrease. And with no medical tests or health questions, you cannot be turned down for any reason. Call 1-800-842-7189. Now, for a free, no-obligation quote, TrueStage offers plans to fit your budget. Help protect your family from immediate financial burdens after you're gone with Guaranteed Acceptance whole life insurance through TrueStage. Call 1-800-842-7189 now.
Planning the right amount of food is hard. The Guestimator makes it easy. Just tell it who's coming and what's for dinner. Then it tells you how much to make. And yes, it even plans for leftovers. Try it at SaveTheFood.com.
I'm Anne. I'm a scientist.
Recycling takes a team.
Why don't you let me and me help you out?
Everyone plays a part. Don't trash
I love taking stuff apart and building new things out of it.
what could be treasure.
Pal's my most advanced android. This is awesome. You haven't seen anything yet.
Give your cardboard box another life. Recycle.
Growing up, my mom was afraid of the water, something she did not want me to feel.
So I enrolled Missy in swim lessons.
It changed my life.
Missy Franklin.
And now you can do the same for someone that you love.
There's nothing more precious than your child's well-being.
So act now, before it's too late.
Make us fly!
I'm glad I did.
Thanks, Mom. Visit usaswimmingfoundation.org to find, get, or give a swim lesson.
To be able to just get my son here and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
Addiction is a dark place, but just as each new day breaks, there is light. A light that illuminates the people by your side. Out of the darkness, you are walking with 22 million others struggling with addiction. The cure to darkness is light. The cure to stigma is love. And the cure to disease is treatment. Join us as we walk into the dawn of a new day. Together, we are stronger than addiction. Learn more at chatterproof.org.
Find out first at 4 with ABC7 News at 4. Weekdays on ABC7. You're watching ABC7 News at 7:30.
Welcome back, everyone. We are talking about the ballot questions, and joining us for more are former Republican State Senator Lisa Carlton, a member of the Constitution Revision Commission, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. So let's talk about Amendment 9, which is really interesting because it bundles a couple of different things that seem to be unrelated together, like offshore drilling and vaping. When we talk about offshore drilling, Frank, I know that, I mean, that's a bipartisan issue, that Republicans and Democrats overwhelmingly in Florida are for limiting offshore drilling for oil off of our state.
It's most of the time. In 2009, 2010, it was a partisan issue. I think there was a lot of politicking going on at that time. The strategy of knocking down the state moratorium in order to get at the federal moratorium. I don't think the interest groups are so interested in going back there. And so for me, the most surprising thing about this is just the broad support on a heavily Republican CRC and then a lack of resistance to it now. I don't think it's a bad thing. I think putting in the Constitution the moratorium for state waters is a good thing. I think the vaping thing, it's a little bit of a strange pairing, but I don't think there's a whole lot of people that feel very strongly in different directions. So, I'm not.
So Lisa, you are for banning of the offshore
Absolutely.
drilling.
Amendment 9 is an amendment that is really going to be a legacy amendment for Florida, if you ask me. I think it's an opportunity for voters to send a strong message to not only the other states, the federal government, but as a statement from Florida itself that we are not in favor of offshore oil drilling in this state. And a resounding 60% will say, you're right, let's vote yes on 9. You know, the coupling with the vaping, basically the vaping section of Amendment 9 is an update to the current Constitution. In 2006, by 70% of the people in the state of Florida, they voted to ban smoking in workplaces, restaurants, workplaces, movie theaters, malls, any indoor workspaces. As you know, what's happened since 2006 is smoking technology has changed. And so now we have e-cigarettes and vaping. And so this is to update the Constitution to include that.
But this is where the criticism of the process comes in. You know, people may be against offshore drilling, but vape and want to vape in restaurants or wherever. Those two things don't seem to have a lot of common, and we talked to Carlos Baruf, or the local developer who was the chairman of the commission before this process started, and he assured us that Floridians would not stand for putting things that are seemingly unrelated together in one ballot question.
You know, Amendment 9 represented our environmental package, which is a choice for the voters. It's an environmental package from the protection of our beach shores, the protection of our sea life, the protection of our tourist economy here. If we don't have our beaches, we have no tourists coming to the state. And packaged with that is an update of the Clean Indoor Air Act. I think that if you looked at the vote from 2006, when 70% of the people said no more smoking indoors, you would see what's happening now is people are sitting in their workspaces and their cubicles all across the state having to inhale the vape from their neighbor next door. And this is simply an update so that we can have a clean, tobacco-free Florida.
All right, there are a lot of other things we want to get to, including the amendment in terms of banning greyhound racing in Florida. I believe that is Amendment
13.
Thank you very much. You know, a lot of people we've kind of gotten to a point that most people don't like what greyhound racing is in terms of concern about the animals, on the dogs. On the other hand, the owners of these tracks are in a terrible position that under state law currently, if they are to have gambling rooms, they must have these races. Why has it been, Frank, so difficult to get this ballot question to the point it's at right now? And what are the opposing arguments and money in terms of trying to defeat it?
Yeah, this is a slippery slope into the weeds in terms of our gambling laws in this state. But 13, at a certain level, is fairly straightforward. You're referring to there is a regulatory tether for parimutuel facilities, which are your dog tracks, your horse racing, and highlight down in the southeast, that if they want to have card rooms where you're playing against each other, this is not Title III, you're not playing against the house, you have to have the parimutuel games, which are dog racing, if you want to have the card rooms. There have been attempts to sever that. It's been unsuccessful. This would sever it. It was not really highlighted in the amendment of the language. It almost got it tossed off the ballot, but the Supreme Court let it stay on. So if you're concerned about the card rooms, they will stay. This will sever it, but it's fairly straightforward. It will end dog racing in the state of Florida by 2020 if it's approved.
Lisa?
Well, I think 60% of the people are going to agree that this is not a sport that we want in Florida any longer. It is only here because it is basically a state-mandated business. The state mandates that the greyhounds be raced. Now, that's not an appropriate thing for the state to be doing, but we can't untether the two issues of the card rooms and the greyhounds. This is the only way to stop that.
And we should point out, for any one of these amendment questions to be enacted into law, it has to pass by 60% of the vote. That's different from some of our county questions and city questions, and we're going to get to that in a moment. But there's another question there that deals with a 2/3 majority needed in the legislature to raise taxes. Now, a lot of people would say, well, I'm good with that. This, Lisa, correct me if I'm wrong, was not part of the commission. This was by petition to get it on the ballot.
It was by joint resolution of the legislature that the supermajority issue is on the ballot. So the legislature has put it on the ballot themselves by joint resolution for the people to consider. And I think it's a very strong proposal. I'm definitely in favor of it. I think that in today's world we need to have accountability of our elected officials. And if there's going to be raising of taxes and fees, it should be done by a supermajority.
But here's the question, you know, that sometimes because of fiscal situations like the economic collapse in 2008, legislators are put into a tough position that if the state is in dire fiscal straits, they have to make very tough votes and not popular votes. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, would put the ability to do that in a way that may be beyond, bipartisan efforts on both sides to actually get something done. That has to be done.
Yeah, Lisa and I have sharp disagreement on this amendment. Let's remind ourselves this is Florida. We're not in California. We're not in a high-tax state. It's a very fiscally conservative state as it is. But we have some really important issues where raising some fees or looking at options for raising some revenue are really important to some of the challenges that we have to face. Getting both the Florida House, Senate, and Governor to sign off on something like that is tough enough as it is. This is almost the equivalent of giving like a filibuster power for a small minority in either the House or the Senate to block something that most of the state thinks is sensible. And so I'm strongly against it.
All right, I want to talk about one other controversial subject, and that is a Sarasota County question, which is basically single member districts. It's been very controversial for years. It's been tried and rejected in the past, Lisa, but make the case that single member districts in Sarasota County, which basically means that if you live in areas like Newtown, you have a commissioner. If you live in Venice, you have a different commissioner. Why is that a bad idea?
It's a bad idea. It reminds me of, the old-timey ward politics, if you will, of days gone by. It's probably, in my opinion, that amendment on the ballot is probably the worst amendment out of all of the state or local amendments on the ballot, because you are directly taking away people's right to vote for 5 county commissioners. Right now, I have the right to vote for 5 county commissioners. And if this passes, it means I only get to vote for 1 county commissioner. And I feel as if our county commission should represent the entire community, and that whether you are from Northport, you should care just as much about Northport as you do downtown Sarasota.
But we have state representatives from Sarasota or Manatee. We send
this is not
one person to Washington.
Higher levels of government, we do it single-member districts. Even city levels of government, we do single-member districts. The larger counties in the state of Florida do either a hybrid or some form of single-member districts. The 3 things that I think that reasons that I'm in favor for it is I think it gives more voice to communities such as Northport or Newtown. I think it changes the recipe for getting elected. And opens the door to more grassroots-oriented campaigning. It doesn't guarantee anything, but it does change the recipe. You're likely to get a little bit more diversity in the county commission. And I think, and to Lisa's point, I think if in fact you're seeing the vast majority of voters in the county going through all 5 their commissioners and making informed decisions and breaking in different parties, then fine. But I honestly think people just go down R or go down D, and that's not a good thing.
Okay, we have to take a quick break. We'll be back for final thoughts in a moment.
Your last chance for 2018 Honda Civics on sale is now. During our model year-end sale, try new Civics for just $169 a month. You made Civic the best-selling compact car in America. And now get Civic, a KBB.com's best buy of the year for less than the competition. New Civics just $169 a month. Your last chance for Civics, all on sale this week at your local Honda dealer.
I just need a second.
Is your weight holding you back and affecting your health?
Did you see this? Your cousin had a heart attack.
Really?
Excess weight or obesity can be serious, but you can do something about it. Visit yourweightmatters.org. Download the free toolkit to prepare you to speak with a healthcare provider. Your weight does matter. Accept the challenge and take charge today. Visit yourweightmatters.org.
America was built on a love for the outdoors. We are a nation of sportsmen, blessed with magnificent natural resources. With broad interests across water and field, we are united in our devotion to nature and conservation. Join us every week for the best shows celebrating the outdoor lifestyle. Outdoor America. Live free.
This weekend on the ABC7 live stream.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
They are the greatest fighting force the world has ever seen. But what does it take to bridge the distance and keep them connected to family, home, and country? What does it take to strengthen our service members so they can be the greatest force for good in the world? It takes a force. Be a force behind the forces. Give today at force.uso.org.
And our guest joining us right now for final thoughts. And Lisa, let me start with you, because speaking for your average voter out there, you're not only voting for governor, U.S. senator, Congress, state rep, all this. The length of this ballot is becoming ominous, because now you have 13 ballot questions just on the state issues, not to mention the county and the city issues. How much is too much? What do you know about voters in terms of making it through the ballot A to Z?
You know, we do know a bit about it, and you can term it ballot fatigue is a real thing. Voters get tired of reading the amendments. They get lost in the words, if you will. However, I think that this year is so important for voters to have a plan. Millions will be voting before Election Day in this state like never before because of early voting and then the mail-in ballots. And so there is time for the voters to go and look at these amendments, methodically review them, and and then ask themselves, how do they want their Florida to look for the next generation? Because these 13 amendments are going to affect the next generation of Floridians. And if you want that to be as part of your Constitution, you've got to vote, because they have to pass by 60%.
Frank, that's what people should do, but that's not necessarily what people do, because the three of us are really engaged in the political process. We're interested about our community and our state, but there are a lot of people who just they just want to go and vote on election day.
Yes, yes, but I'm going to have to agree strongly with Lisa on this one. Do you want to have a say in governance in your community, in your state, in your country, or you just want to weigh in on who's representing you and just defer to them for everything? Whether you like it or not, we actually have more of a say in how we're governed here as citizens in the county and in the state than you have in other places. And so while it might be a hassle or a burden for people to work their way through these things, I think it's more of a responsibility, if not a civic duty, to take a little bit of time to weigh in. There are important things that are on your ballot. You're not going to walk into the ballot booth on election day and make your way through this. It's important. There are important, significant changes that are just not being done to you. Government, CRC, they're asking permission to do certain things, and I think it's our duty to take a little time. I think you can get through this in about an hour of preparation. Plenty of places that you can go, whether you're partisan or not, to get informed on each of these ballot initiatives. Take the hour, take the time. It's your duty. This is part of a democracy.
Lisa, Frank, thank you very much for joining us. I think we help people, at least give them a primer in terms of what they'll be expecting on their ballot. We want to thank our guests, former Republican State Senator Lisa Carlton, the member of the Constitution Revision Commission, and Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College. When we return, President Trump traveling to Florida today, assessing the damage left behind by Hurricane Michael. But right now, let's get a check of our forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan. Bob.
Good evening, everyone. A beautiful sunset it was tonight. You can see hardly any clouds around at all, and you'll see right here as the sun goes below the horizons, there are some storms off in the distance that create these shadows that you see right there, crepuscular rays on our skies. A beautiful one it has been, and a very warm one at that as well. Viewer photo just sent in from Art Conforti, who's out there in the Gulf of Mexico checking that sunset out as well. The frontal boundary located to our north is advancing slowly to the south now, bringing some showers into Kentucky, Tennessee, stretching all the way over into Texas. That front, unfortunately, isn't going to make its way through here anytime soon. There are some showers down to our south. There's a chance for an isolated shower or two through this evening. That rain chance very small, less than 20% for a passing shower. Now, as far as the futurecast goes, you can see the activity working its way off into the Gulf, and then a little bit more of a southeasterly wind tomorrow. That still, though, is not going to bring us much rain. The chances tomorrow stay less than 20%, hardly worth mentioning, but one or two lone showers not out of the question tomorrow afternoon and tomorrow evening. But looks like Wednesday, as that wind becomes more southeasterly, things will moisten up a bit. Warm tonight, low temperatures unseasonably warm into the mid to upper 70s. Upper 70s near the beaches, mid 70s inland. That's a few degrees above average. And as I mentioned earlier, we did set a record high temperature today, and at least tied it in Tampa and set it in Fort Myers. No records here, but the hourly planner looks to be warm again on Tuesday. Now, we had that little tease of cool air on Saturday morning. Pretty nice day on Saturday. Then things warmed up on Sunday. It's going to stay warm, too. We're talking highs right around 89, 90 degrees, and a heat index right around 100 degrees in the afternoon. Well, the water vapor content, we look for this to see if there's any available moisture for any shower activity. There's not a lot. It's rather dry across the Gulf of Mexico and throughout our region. With that big high pressure ridge situated right here, it's going to block this frontal boundary from getting much more advancement to the south throughout tonight and tomorrow. It will weaken, though, that high pressure just a little bit on Wednesday, which will allow a little bit of a backdoor front to move on through for a little bit cooler temperatures as we head into the weekend, but not much. You can see a lot of activity down here in the Western Caribbean. We talked about this earlier. There's a chance it could develop, and the chance of it developing into a tropical system, 40%. The reason why it's not gone up too much higher than that over the next 5 days is because it'll be over land for the most part. There's a chance it could redevelop or develop into something in the Pacific or in the southwest Gulf of Mexico. Look at the water temperatures where Michael passed through. It's cooled down to right about the threshold for tropical systems to gain strength or even intensify. But in the southwest Gulf, the water temperatures there are still into the upper 80s to near 90 degrees. Current conditions at the Sarasota Reagan Airport, 84, and the feels like temperature is at 93. The pressure, 30.04. That is rising now, and the high today was above average, not close to the record, though, of 96. Set back in 1925. This morning's low was summer-like. It's 75 degrees. Nationally, behind this front, things have really chilled out across much of the central U.S., even down into the southern plain states, where temperature in Dallas, 44, 39 in Albuquerque, 44 in Kansas City. It's 48 in St. Louis. And as far as highs go tomorrow, it stays cool behind that front. We're looking at highs into the 40s, 50s, and 60s over parts of the central U.S. and into the 80s to 90s over Georgia all the way down to Florida. For boaters, east winds turn to the northwest at 10 knots. Seas will be 1 to 2 feet. There'll be a light chop out there. The water temperature now 84 degrees. The UV index will be high tomorrow at a 4. And the forecast for the next 7 days then, less of a chance for rain tomorrow, less than 20%. High temperatures staying above average all the way through this week, a work week anyway. A good chance for scattered showers in the afternoon and evening through Friday. A little dry air slips in for the weekend, just in time for the weekend. High temperatures pretty close to seasonal averages into the mid-80s. Al will be back with primetime headlines right after this.
Rugs as Art. You know the name, you know the building, but do you know what's inside? Yes, Rugs as Art is Florida's #1 area rug superstore. But there is so much more. Amazing furniture, accessories, and art. All this and more. Come see for yourself. You'll love our personal touch and be pleasantly surprised by our affordable prices. Rugs as Art and more. There is so much more to explore.
I feel happiest when I'm out enjoying my favorite things, like spending time in my garden. That's why I need a Humana Medicare Advantage plan.
Many Humana Medicare Advantage plans cover everything from emergency care and hospital stays to doctor office visits and prescription drug coverage. In fact, last year, Humana Medicare Advantage prescription drug plan members saved an estimated $6,900 on average on their prescription costs. Humana has a large network of doctors and hospitals, plans that include vision and dental coverage, and most plans include Silver Sneakers Fitness and a rewards program. All for a $0 monthly plan premium in most areas.
Now I can be happy and healthy and keep enjoying all of my favorite things.
Your health and happiness is important to us. Call or go online now to get your free decision guide and see how a Humana Medicare Advantage plan can help keep you enjoying your favorite things.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point away.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
Each day, researchers make discoveries that bring us closer to the moment when all cancer patients can become survivors. Their progress is made possible with the help of clinical trials. Clinical trials are the brightest torch researchers have to light their way towards better treatments. And if you've been diagnosed with cancer, they may be your brightest ray of hope. Speak with your doctor and visit standuptocancer.org/clinical trials to learn more. Together, we can stand up for all of us.
Army National Guard soldiers serve to give back to their country and their community. Their part-time commitment qualifies them for benefits such as health and life insurance, education benefits, and retirement and VA home loan benefits. Visit NationalGuard.com to learn more.
ABC7 is the most watched, most trusted news source on the Suncoast, and we owe it all to you, our loyal viewers. Thank you for making us #1.
Checking primetime headlines, President Trump is surveying some of the areas hardest hit by Hurricane Michael today. He landed this afternoon in the Florida Panhandle, where Governor Scott praised the assistance provided by the White House in responding to the disaster. But with the midterms just around the corner, the president is also keeping an eye on politics, upping the number of media opportunities in recent weeks as he tries to keep Republicans in charge of Congress. ABC's Lana Zach reports from Washington.
President Donald Trump praised first responders as he touched down in an area ravaged by Hurricane Michael.
We are doing more than anybody would have ever done, and probably there hasn't been hits like this, certainly not very often.
The president and first lady were on the ground in Florida viewing the devastation from the Category 4 hurricane, which obliterated entire neighborhoods.
Hard to believe. I've seen pictures, but it's hard to believe.
Then it was on to Georgia, where the president met with Red Cross volunteers. In an earlier interview with 60 Minutes, Mr. Trump was asked if witnessing natural disasters as commander-in-chief informed his perspective on climate change.
You don't know whether or not that would have happened with or without man.
I was thinking, what if he said, no, I've seen the hurricane situations, I've changed my mind. There really is climate change. And I thought, wow, what an impact. What an impact that would make.
I'm not denying climate change, but it could very well go back.
And with only 3 weeks until the midterm elections, the president has been busy on the campaign trail. Here he is in Montana in July, taking on a potential 2020 Democratic challenger, Elizabeth Warren.
I will give you $1 million to your favorite charity, paid for by Trump, if you take the test and it shows you're an Indian.
And now Warren's released her DNA results.
What do the facts say?
The facts suggest that you absolutely have a Native American ancestor in your pedigree.
When asked about Warren's DNA test, the president said that he hopes she's running for president and that he thinks it will be easy to beat her. On Twitter, Warren asked President Trump to donate $1 million to the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center. Lana Zak, ABC News, Washington.
The previously dominant retail giant chain Sears is filing for bankruptcy. The company has been around for 132 years, has had its financial issues over the past few years, and has major debt. Sears was unable to pay $134 million in debt payment today, which was due. President Trump spoke about Sears earlier today.
So Sears Roebuck, when I was growing up, was the big deal. And it's very sad what happened. Very, very sad.
Dozens of major retailers have been struggling in years since Amazon took wing. And that's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Alan Cohn. Thanks for joining us. Have a good night.